Marcus! What did you do?
I never look back at ruins.
Let me tell you about betrayal. I'm Marcus, 55. After 27 years of marriage, my wife Claudia chose to blow up our life at her med school graduation. In front of a whole crowd, I stood by her through it all. Undergrad, med school apps, those endless rotations where she came home looking half dead. I worked overtime, sold our Mission Beach condo with the ocean view, packed her lunches with little notes, threw parties when she passed boards. For almost 3 decades, I was her ATM, her cheerleader, her support system rolled into one. Graduation day at the San Diego Convention Center, I sat in the 3rd row, proud in my best Navy suit, the one she'd picked for me at Christmas. My wife, the doctor, after years of ramen dinners, secondhand books, and me working every odd job I could find, we'd made it. Claudia looked stunning in her cream dress, crossing the stage like she'd just climbed Everest in heels. When they called Dr. Claudia Langston, my chest swelled with pride. That's my wife, I thought. We did it. She beamed, the cameras flashing, families cheering. For a moment, it was perfect. Then, she did the thing that still makes my blood boil. She walked to the mic, tapped it, and the squeal rang out. The hall fell silent. "Excuse me," she said in that fake, sweet voice I should have known meant trouble. "I have something important to say." I thought she was going to thank me, say how we'd done this together. Instead, she stared straight at me and said, clear as day, "Marcus, I've decided to start a new life without you." The silence that followed was heavy enough to choke on. Gasps, chairs scraping, a glass shattering. People stared. And then I spotted him, Dr. Theo Barrett, the smug neurology resident with TV star looks, perfect hair, and flashy glasses. He was smirking, like he'd just won a prize. Most men would have cracked right then. Not me. I smiled. A real one. I stood, fixed my tie, and said loud enough for everyone, "Thanks for being honest, Claudia. At least now I hear the truth." Then I pulled a manila envelope from my jacket, something I'd carried for weeks. I walked up like I was accepting an award, handed it to her, and said, "Your graduation gift." Then I walked out like I owned the place, leaving mouths hanging open. She had no clue what was inside, no idea her new life was about to get a lot harder. It had started months before. Claudia turned cold. Our talks went from easy and warm to clipped and dry. "How was the hospital?" "Fine." "Learn anything?" "Sure." It was like talking to a wall. And her phone. Suddenly it never left her hand. For 26 years, we'd shared everything. Bank codes, emails, Netflix. Now everything was locked down. When I asked for the Netflix password, she snapped like I was some crook, not her husband. Our Friday date nights vanished faster than free pizza in a dorm. She always had some study group that left her glowing like she'd just been on vacation instead of cramming facts. Fresh makeup, perfect hair, a spark I hadn't seen aimed at me in months. Our friends started acting off too. People I'd known for years, folks I'd helped move apartments, watched their kids grow up. Whenever I walked in, talk stopped cold. They'd trade looks that shouted, "Oh crap, he's here," louder than if they'd said it. Then came the night everything shifted. A Tuesday in late April. I was watching Netflix while Claudia made tea for studying. She came back with her iPad, sat at the far end of the couch like I was contagious. 20 minutes later, she went to the bathroom and left the iPad behind. Unlocked, screen lit up like a spotlight of truth. I'm not proud of what I did. But when your gut's screaming and suspicion's eating you alive, you grab the lifeline that floats by. I picked it up. What I saw froze me solid. Text threads between Claudia and Dr. Theo Barrett. Flirty lines that would make teenagers blush. Hotel booking receipts. Voice notes where they laughed about how clueless I was. One had her giggling, "He has no idea." Just a little longer. Like they were planning a surprise party instead of burning my life to the ground. But here's the thing. I've worked it for 20 years. I know how to handle digital proof. Like a caffeined-up forensic cop, I grabbed screenshots of everything. Every text, every hotel receipt, every voice note where they mocked me like I was a walking ATM too dumb to notice. The dumb move would have been blowing up right then. But I don't play that way. Emotion loses, logic wins. So I went to war. Quiet, careful, like a chess master plotting checkmate 15 moves ahead. In public, I played the role to perfection. Supportive husband? Check. Loyal but confused partner? Double check. The guy still packing her lunches, asking about her day like nothing had changed? Triple check, Oscar-worthy. Behind the curtain, I was busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. That's when I found James Rivera, a divorce lawyer with a rep for being as ruthless as a honey badger in a suit. He looked over my files and grinned like Christmas had come early. "Marcus," he said, leaning back in his leather chair, "I've done this 23 years, and I've rarely seen a case with this much firepower. Your wife's been reckless. Very, very reckless." We tore through everything with IRS-level care. Bank records, credit cards, investments, line by line. That's when we hit the landmine. Claudia had been opening hidden accounts, siphoning cash like a termite chewing through our foundation. Tiny transfers, nothing loud enough to set off alarms. But month after month, it piled into a tidy little fund she clearly meant to use to launch her new life with Dr. Dreamboat. Bold, yes, but bold in the most maddening way. Here's where years of me playing the long game paid off. The house? Still in my name. Claudia had been too buried in school to bother with the deed. And that prenup we signed 27 years back? She must have thought it expired like spoiled milk. What she didn't know was that I'd slipped in a clause making sure it stayed ironclad no matter how long the marriage lasted. The real masterstroke was the hidden camera I'd set up in our home office 3 weeks earlier. Claudia had been spending more and more time in there, studying, but making hushed calls that didn't sound like med school talk. So I did what any IT guy with a sixth sense for trouble would do. I installed a pin-sized HD camera, small as a grain of rice, impossible to notice. The footage I caught was like a greatest hits album of betrayal. Video calls with Theo doing things that had nothing to do with medicine. Phone chats about their future, about how to handle Marcus. Even one where they talked about selling my house and using the money to bankroll their new life. James bundled it all into what he called the nuclear option. Bank records, screenshots, hidden camera clips, money trails, proof of the affair, and plans for a secret exit. It was the full package. A master guide on how to blow up your own divorce settlement. That envelope I handed Claudia at graduation wasn't just theater. It was the endgame of weeks of planning and prep, polished with the care of a military strategist. Walking out of the convention center felt like escaping a burning building. The glass doors slid shut behind me, sealing off the rising storm of whispers and gasps inside. Out in the parking lot, the air felt clean, calm, a sanctuary compared to the chaos I'd just set loose. I was halfway to my Honda when I heard it, her scream. Not just a scream, a raw, gut-deep howl from someone watching their world cave in like a house of cards hit by a hurricane. Marcus, what is this?" "What did you do?" Even through the walls and closed doors, her voice carried, desperate and sharp enough to cut glass. I didn't need to turn around to know the picture. Claudia in her gown, the envelope torn open, divorce papers spilling at her feet like confetti at the worst celebration in history. I didn't look back. Looking back would have been like Lot's wife glancing at Sodom. Nothing good waiting there. I just kept moving, steady and calm, like I was on a Sunday stroll instead of walking away from my wife's total meltdown. My phone lit up like a hive of angry wasps. First text, "Dude, what the hell just happened?" Second, "Marcus, call me now." "Claudia's losing it." Third, "Is this some kind of joke?" The pings kept coming, one after another like digital popcorn exploding in the bag. Every buzz was proof my little graduation day gift had landed with guided missile accuracy. Then came the call I'd been waiting for. Dr. Theo Barrett. His name flashing on my screen made me grin like a kid who just pulled the perfect prank. "Marcus Langston speaking," I answered, smooth and polite, my best customer service voice. "What the hell, Marcus? What did you just do to Claudia?" His tone was high and tight, like someone had him in a vice. "Oh, hey, Theo, funny hearing from you. How's the neurology thing treating you? Don't play games with me, man." "Claudia is hysterical." "That's rich," I said. "Coming from the guy who's been screwing another man's wife. I'm sure your ethics professor would be proud." Silence. I could almost hear the gears turning in that polished head, him trying to figure out just how much I knew and how screwed he was. "Marcus, look, I think there's been some misunderstanding." "Oh, there's been a misunderstanding, all right." "The mistake was thinking I'm too dumb to notice my wife playing doctor with someone else. But don't worry, Doc. That got cleared up in spectacular fashion today." I hung up before he could stammer out another excuse. Then I turned up the stereo. Miles Davis's Kind of Blue poured out of the speakers, the perfect soundtrack for how Theo and Claudia were probably feeling. 3 weeks later in San Diego County Family Court, I wasn't feeling intimidated. I was feeling like a quarterback with a 20-point lead and the other team's playbook. James Rivera was waiting in his expensive leather confidence, looking like he'd stepped out of a legal thriller where good guys always win. Claudia was sitting on a bench 30 feet away, and I almost didn't recognize her. The woman who'd looked radiant at graduation now looked like she'd been hit by a truck. Her perfectly styled hair now looked kitchen scissor cut, clothes wrinkled, minimal makeup, hollow eyes suggesting she'd been getting as much sleep as new parents with colicky twins. Next to her sat Victoria Sterling, a high-profile divorce lawyer who specialized in representing wronged wives and extracting maximum settlements from cheating husbands. Unfortunately for both, this wasn't going to be one of those cases. Judge Patricia Hernandez presided with no-nonsense authority, sharp eyes that could spot BS from across crowded courtrooms. 20-plus years handling family court cases meant immunity to crocodile tears and particular disdain for people thinking they could outsmart the legal system. Sterling launched into her standard opening, heartfelt tale of devoted wife who'd sacrificed dreams to support husband's career, only to be cruelly abandoned just as she was achieving success. She painted Claudia as innocent sufferer destroyed by vindictive ex-husband's midlife crisis. When Judge Hernandez turned to James, he stood with casual confidence of someone about to enjoy himself immensely. He walked to the evidence table, picked up a thick folder, and faced the judge with a smile that would have made sharks nervous. "Your Honor, I appreciate Missy Sterling's creative interpretation, but evidence tells a rather different story." He pulled out our prenuptial agreement, complete with official seals and notarized signatures. 27 years ago, the Langstons signed this prenup clearly outlining asset distribution in divorce events. Valid, binding, signed willingly after independent legal counsel. Sterling jumped up like she'd been cattle prodded. "Your Honor, my client was young and naive. Miss Sterling, you'll have your opportunity. Please allow Mr. Rivera to continue." James continued his legal demolition. Furthermore, the prenuptial agreement contains specific clauses reinforcing validity regardless of marriage length, added at Mr. Langston's insistence due to concerns about protecting pre-marriage assets. I watched Claudia's face as this sank in. The prenup she'd thought had expiration dates was not only valid, it was bulletproof. Her expression was like watching someone realize they'd been playing poker with a deck missing all aces. He pulled out bank records showing Claudia's secret accounts. These financial records show Mrs. Langston systematically transferring marital funds without her husband's knowledge. Over 8 months, she moved approximately $47,000 to personal accounts opened using her maiden name. Judge Hernandez's eyebrows rocketed up. Unauthorized financial transfers during marriage were serious business. Then came the infidelity evidence, a folder thick enough to choke a horse. "We have extensive documentation of Mrs. Langston's affair with Dr. Theodore Barrett. Hotel receipts, text communications, photographic evidence, sworn affidavit from a licensed private investigator." Sterling looked like she'd been hit with a legal 2x4. Claudia went pale as sheets, hands shaking visibly. Judge Hernandez reviewed everything with thoroughness of someone used to people trying to pull fast ones. "The prenuptial agreement appears valid and binding. Financial discrepancies are concerning, and infidelity evidence is comprehensive." Sterling made one last desperate attempt. "Your Honor, my client has been emotionally and financially abused. She deserves alimony for years she sacrificed." Judge Hernandez held up her hand, expression shifting from neutral to actively annoyed. "Miss Sterling, this court does not reward betrayal. The prenup is clear, financial misconduct overwhelming, infidelity well documented. Mrs. Langston forfeits any claim to spousal support, and Mr. Langston retains all protected assets." The gavel came down like a capital case verdict. Final and absolute. Claudia lost everything. House, accounts, retirement savings, alimony hope. 27 years of marriage, and she walked away with exactly what she'd brought. Nothing but her medical degree and regret. The aftermath was beautiful. Word spread through San Diego's medical community like wildfire. Turns out Theo had bragged about his conquest to colleagues, not knowing one was friends with residency review board members. Bragging about screwing married women doesn't exactly scream excellent judgment to people deciding whether you keep your residency. Dr. Jennifer Martinez, chief of internal medicine, was particularly unamused by Theo's story. She shared it with colleagues during staff meetings about professional conduct expectations. The story became this year's most popular medical community cautionary tale. Claudia's internship offer at Cedars-Sinai mysteriously disappeared when they heard about her questionable personal choices reflecting poor judgment. The domino effect was perfect. Her affair wasn't just costing our marriage, it was systematically destroying the medical career she'd sacrificed everything to build. Meanwhile, I started Langston Consulting, specialized service helping people navigate toxic divorces and protect themselves from manipulative partners. My combination of IT skills, financial knowledge, and recent first-hand high-conflict divorce experience made me uniquely qualified helping people going through the same hell I'd survived. The business took off faster than expected. Turns out lots of San Diego people were dealing with cheating spouses, hidden assets, and partners thinking they could game the divorce system. Each new client was validation that I'd turned my worst experience into something meaningful. 6 months later, I'm sitting at Luna's Cafe overlooking La Jolla Cove, reading a thank you letter from David Chun, a client I'd helped when he discovered his wife was having an affair with her personal trainer and systematically emptying their accounts for spa weekends. His handwritten letter was better than any corporate performance review. You helped me understand there's a difference between giving up and giving in. You showed me I didn't have to be a sufferer of someone else's selfishness. More importantly, you helped me remember my worth. Without that evidence, she would have walked away with half of everything I'd worked 30 years to build. Reading David's gratitude hit harder than expected. Not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten. For 27 years, I'd thought my purpose was supporting Claudia's dreams, being the foundation allowing her to build something amazing. I defined my worth through her achievements. When she threw that away for a fling with Dr. Pretty Boy, I'd felt like I'd lost not just my marriage, but my identity. But sitting at Luna's reading David's letter, I realized something obvious. I hadn't lost my purpose when Claudia left. I'd found it. Langston Consulting wasn't just business, it was mission. Every client was someone betrayed by the person they trusted most, someone feeling stupid and defeated, convinced they were about to lose everything to someone who didn't deserve it. They were all versions of the man I'd been 6 months earlier, completely unaware his wife was about to nuke their marriage. 6 months ago, Claudia graduated thinking she was starting a new life. She'd stood on that stage, looked out at the crowd, and announced her independence from a marriage she thought was holding her back. But she wasn't the only one who graduated that day. I graduated too, not with a diploma, but with something more valuable. Clear understanding of my own worth, knowledge I could survive anything life threw at me, and skills to help other people do the same. I'd earned a degree in resilience with a minor in never letting anyone take advantage of me again. Claudia had graduated into a world where her reputation was destroyed, career prospects limited, and boyfriend had abandoned her the moment things got financially complicated. She'd traded a partner who'd supported her for 27 years for a guy who couldn't handle 48 hours of uncertainty. I'd graduated into a new life where every morning brought possibility of helping someone else remember their worth, protect their assets, and walk away from toxic situations with dignity intact. A life where I was building something meaningful from the wreckage of something that had never been as real as I'd thought it was. And to think it all started with an envelope. The best part? This was just the beginning.